All right, guys, you know what? We are here today with a very special guest. It is an honor for Ring Rust Radio to have him today. Mr. Bruno Sammartino. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. And how are you?
Listen, we are very honored to have you on the show today. And you know what? We got to get it right all out. First question, let's get it right out of the way. You're in the WWE Hall of Fame this year. Many wrestling fans, including myself, everybody on this panel, we are very excited to finally have you in your rightful spot in the Hall of Fame. Let's get right into it. What took you so long to just accept this honor and get in there with the WWE? We're ready. We're excited to have you. Go ahead.
Well, what took so long is this: that after I retired, I spent a quarter of a century in the business, and when I retired, then a new regime took over, Vince McMahon Jr. and that. And in the beginning, I went back to help out. I was a color commentator with him, but then I started seeing things that were disturbing to me. I saw the steroid use in wrestling became kind of rampant, and then I saw the changes in wrestling itself with some nudity, and there was some vulgarity going on with different things that they were doing, and the profanity was so much, and I just that bothered the heck out of me. It bothered me so much that became very outspoken about it. I hate to see the business that I spent 25 years in take that direction, and so that's what really started it all. And then when it came to the Hall of Fame, like I said, I said, well, I've been very critical of the direction they've taken, and I feel like a hypocrite if I just accepted this Hall of Fame while I'm so against what they're doing. So all these years have gone by, and I've refused every time. But now what happened is that I found that Dr. Joseph Maroon, whom I happen to know personally, he's a world-renowned neurosurgeon. In fact, he's operated on me 3 times. But his reputation is awesome. And when I found out he took on that challenge to clean up the drug situation that was over there, that made me feel good. And time went by, and then when I was contacted by the WWE, which Paul Levesque, better known as Triple H, when he contacted me, I was curious. I wasn't convinced, but after a while, he started telling me, that about not only the drug program and how strict they were, but he started talking to me about how they were making it more family friendly by doing away with the nudity and vulgarity and the profanity and all that. So about maybe 6-7 weeks ago, I started watching it because I had my doubts, to be honest. Meanwhile, Paul kept calling me, and talking to me more and more about the whole business and what direction they wanted to go and so forth. And after watching it, as I have, and have a meeting with Dr. Maroon, who explained to me time and again what they were doing, well, then, as I had told some previous people who interviewed me, they said, you'll never go there. You said you feel like a hypocrite. But what if they changed? What if the whole thing changed? Would you reconsider? And I said, absolutely. If they changed, absolutely I would reconsider. Well, they've convinced me that they have changed, and they've convinced me, Paul Levesque, that they want to be family friendly, and the plans to go ahead is to even more so. I like everything you had to say. So anyway, putting everything together is what made me, want to go in.
Mike Chiari, question?
Yeah, Mr. Sammartino, as you just mentioned, Triple H reached out to you and was obviously a huge reason why you've accepted induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. But at the same time, everybody knows that Vince McMahon, he still runs the show, and I imagine that there's been some interaction between you and him. But how would you describe your current relationship with Vince McMahon after years of disagreements, as many wrestling fans know?
Well, first of all, I have not talked to Vince McMahon at all. In the past 6 months that I've been speaking with Paul Levesque, I have never once talked to Vince McMahon. Now, yes, as you said, he is the boss. So I feel that with my conversations with Paul Levesque and the agreements that we come to and so forth, I do believe that he had to speak to Vince, and Vince, of course, had to agree. But as far as myself, I will see him for the first time right at Madison Square Garden at the Hall of Fame. But I have not talked to him, and as far as I know, I don't think there are any plans for us to talk until we meet in person at that time. So when the time comes, we shall meet in person, and if he's wants to bury the hatchet, as the old saying goes. I commend him for the changes that he made. That I criticized him before, and I will give him credit now, because these changes could have not taken place without his approval. So I have to be fair too here. So when I meet him, I will shake his hand, and I will tell him, hey, I'm willing to bury the hatchet. I didn't like what you did before, but I like a lot what you've done since. So I'm willing to put our past behind us.
And that's good. Brandon Galvin, question?
Yeah, Mr. Sammartino, I'm actually going to be attending Madison Square Garden Hall of Fame ceremony. I'm excited. A lot of fans are excited. How important is it to you to be able to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in Madison Square Garden?
Well, that's a real biggie for me. Okay, anytime you get inducted into any Hall of Fame, into an Hall of Fame like this, first of all, that's great, because you're being recognized for what you've achieved and so forth, and that's wonderful to be honored for that. But for it to be in Madison Square Garden, that makes it very, very special for me, because I have such a history in the Garden. 50 years ago, 1963, I first became the Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion. Which I held for almost 8 years, a couple of months. It was in Madison Square Garden that I thought the roof was going to pop off when I picked up Ace Calhoun, which nobody had been able to move him at that time, because, he was well over 600 pounds. It was in Madison Square Garden, that had a bad thing to it. That's where I broke my neck, where I came within a millimeter of being paralyzed from the neck down. That was in 1976. It was in, Madison Square Garden is where I regained the title after I'd lost it the first time, and for another 4 years, and I appeared there. And the reason the Garden is also special, because that's the most famous arena in the world. No matter where you go in the world, everybody knows Madison Square Garden. So Madison Square Garden did a lot for me. The fact that I wrestled there about 200 times, it gave me tremendous publicity worldwide. So whenever I went to Japan or Australia, South America, Hong Kong, wherever I went, everybody knew me, and I was the headliner everywhere I went. Why? Because all the publicity that were brought on by appearing in Madison Square Garden. So naturally, that makes it extremely special for me, the Hall of Fame and in Madison Square Garden.
All right, I have a question for you. CM Punk, he was just the WWE champion. He held the title for 434 days, the longest reign of the last 25 years. I know you said you've caught up with the product recently, so you probably saw the tail end of his title reign. What do you think defines a great champion? How do you think CM Punk stacks up against the greatest of all time, including yourself?
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I cannot compare any of the champions of recent times with past champs, and I'll tell you why. To me, you know what the test is as far as a champion and how the public as a whole view this guy to be a champion. If they were like in the old days, like in my day, and I'm not the only one, don't misunderstand, because there were people before me and there have been some after me. I appeared, for example, the first 8 years I was champion, I was in Madison Square Garden 3 and 4 weeks. Every 3 or 4 weeks I was there, month after month, year after year after year. And I was very fortunate, lucky that the fans supported me. They kept coming. And the same thing with all the major arenas that I wrestled throughout the Northeast and around the country. When the people keep following you like that, that means that you're doing something right. I mean, but that's the proof that you are a people's champion. But when you're a champion in not recent years, in the past 20-some years, 30 years almost, there are champions, but they may be popular as far as the viewing audience on TV, but they're not tested, in my opinion. The test is if you can get them into an arena, make them the headliner, and have the people come from wherever they come to travel, to spend their money to come and see you. When you have the ability to have that happen and stay consistent with it, then I say that you are a champion that is truly accepted by the public. I haven't seen that sort of champion in years because they don't go to the arenas on a regular basis. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm talking about here?
Do you think? Well, let me say something, Mr. Sammartino. What do you think about a guy like John Cena, who has really become the top guy for WWE and has really sold out WrestleManias and is becoming like a Hulk Hogan or a Bruno Sammartino? That's the kind of mold that they're kind of casting John Cena out of. What do you think of him in that vein?
Again, I'm not familiar with a lot of these guys. Of course, I know he is, and I've seen him. But there again, when you talk about WrestleMania, most of the times these arenas sell out even before the people know what the card is, because it's become such a thing. It's like people look at it as like a Super Bowl in wrestling. And if you are following it at all, from everything that I've been told, when WrestleMania is announced for the date for next year and whatever, automatically the people start buying tons of tickets. So it's not because a particular individual has been advertised as the headliner and people are flocking. I'm not suggesting that these people are not, that the public is not interested in coming to see Cena. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying to you, though, and Hogan, I'll include Hogan. Hogan was never consistent in going into an arena time after time. In fact, it was during his era as champion that in Boston, for example, I was just a color commentator, and I was 51 or 52 years old, and Vince McMahon Jr. actually asked me to put on the tights because Boston was down, Pittsburgh was down. And who was the world champion? Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was an attraction you could put into a major club and he would get you results. But if you dared to bring him back the next month and the month after that and the month after that, it didn't work. It would drop 30-40% in the gate. He was not consistent. He was fortunate because he came at a time with the pay-per-views and merchandising. But if they depended on the arena alone, I'm sorry, I'll disagree with you if you think that Hogan was such a big attraction. He was not an attraction that could repeat month after month, because they tried it when he became champion, and soon they discovered that he could not carry that, and that's why then they start featuring other characters, and then after a while that wasn't working to where they really stopped running. The Garden, as well as any other club. Look, they only go to the Garden maybe a couple times a year. So I want to see somebody that can go to the clubs on a regular basis and be successful. Then I will say that they are great attractions.
Great points, Mike Chiari. Question.
Yeah, Mr. Sammartino, you're obviously very well known for your two lengthy title reigns, more than 7 and 5 years respectively. But long reigns are now largely a thing of the past, I would say. CM Punk's reign just ended at 434 days, and it almost seemed like an eternity by today's standards. So do you think that something like a 7-year title reign like you experienced is plausible nowadays, or do you think that the business has changed too much to accommodate a title reign that's that long?
I've been only watching it for the past 6 weeks or so. I had not watched it for many, many years. I can't make the judgment yet. I would think that today, to hold the title a long time like that, I don't know if it's feasible, because it's like a different business than the one that I knew. I was a student of the game prior to my getting in it. And I knew, the way wrestling was from way back, from practically the turn of the century. It has changed drastically with the changes today. I don't know if people are just happy and satisfied with watching it on television and not the kind of fans that would, accept on occasion to go to the arena. If that's the case, I don't know how you keep a champion for a long time, more or less if he's just a TV champion. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's a difficult question for me to answer because I don't know what decides as to you say 400 and some days for this the latest champion. I know very little about him as far as what did he accomplish that he held it that long, and why was it that they felt that he couldn't hold it anymore? I don't know. This is not something that I'm really knowledgeable about in the past 25, 30 years. I really can't say.